The vivo X100 Pro rekindled my love for photography in neon-lit Hong Kong. Evidently, the X100 Pro is one of the best camera phones that money can buy right now, and its younger sibling, the vivo X100, is no slouch either. So without wasting any more time, let's take a closer, more detailed look at both these phones. If you're here for the first time, I'm Ershad, you're watching Trakin English, your destination for detailed, incisive gadget reviews. So the vivo X100 Pro's camera setup includes 350 megapixel cameras. The 50MP Sony IMX989 1-inch sensor continues to exist. It was present in the vivo X90 Pro as well. That apart, you also have a 50MP ultra-wide camera, which is a Samsung JN1. And of course, the star of the setup is the 50 megapixel OmniVision OV64B with 4.3x periscope zoom, and it includes the Zeiss Apo lenses with an aperture of f2.5. In this entire setup, the telephoto one is the one that is super impressive. Every single shot is rich with detail. There's absolutely no chromatic aberration, especially around the edges. Good job, Zeiss. The colors are also true to life in the Zeiss natural color mode or poppy and attractive in the vivid mode. You take your pick. The low light performance and the dynamic range is absolutely insane too. If you ask me, the Zeiss floating lens technology that Vivo has used for the periscope is actually the game-changing tech out here. Up to 10x, I actually got pretty sharp shots. It's surprisingly good. You can zoom even further up to 100x if that's what you like. With this periscope camera and the computational photography chops that Vivo has, there's a new telephoto sunshot mode which actually does take very good pictures of the setting sun. It does manage to bring in the brightness of the sun without overexposing it, and it brings out very nice orange and red hues as well. And for those wondering, the supermoon mode still exists too. Portrait photography on the vivo X100 Pro is especially excellent. You get multifocal portraits ranging from 23mm, 35mm, 50mm, 85mm, and finally 100mm. The 100mm portraits are my most favorite shots. We got some absolutely bomb portrait shots, not just in the day, but also in the night. The semantic segmentation is absolutely divine with little to no misses in edge detection. And if you ask me, the software generated bokeh drop-off comes very, very close to replicating the look of an actual DSLR with a prime lens. And at night, the different Zeiss portrait lenses also come in handy. Just take a look at these cinematic portrait shots. I absolutely love it. It gets the Michael Bay out in me. Not just the telephoto, the 1-inch Sony IMX989 continues to be a beast in terms of detailed retrieval. The skin tone accuracy in Zeiss natural color is very, very close to natural. The HDR performance is also very good, with the phone only missing out with highlight control, sometimes in the absolutely harsh situations. Additionally, there is no lens flaring or ghosting to speak of thanks to the Zeiss lenses. And you know what? This has always been a problem with the iPhones, including the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Low light performance of the primary camera is also great. You get some of the sharpest, most detailed low light pictures with very little color variance from the real scene too. Another advantage of this periscope floating lens is that you get a very close focal distance of 18 centimeters, which means that you can get excellent 4.3x and 8.6x macros. These macro shots look absolutely stunning, and you can also use this in low light because the low light performance of the telephoto is good to begin with. You've obviously seen me fawning over the periscope camera on the vivo X100 Pro so much that you will realize that I'm actually a fan of telephoto and not really much of a fan of the ultrawide, but I still did test out the ultrawide on the X100 Pro. Even with the few shots that I took with the 50MP ultrawide angle camera, the results were pretty good to my eyes. You get excellent details in daylight and in low light. And the good thing is that Vivo's algorithm manages to maintain the color sense consistency with the primary camera too. You can also record 4K 60fps videos using all the three lenses on the vivo X100 Pro, and the best part is switching between lenses is actually smooth, and that is such a huge relief. The video stabilization between these cameras is absolutely fantastic. Sound recording is pretty good too. But most importantly, you get absolutely gorgeous low light video as well. The X100 Pro has a dedicated V3 chip for image processing, and it does come in handy for cinematic portrait video. You can actually shoot portrait video with multiple subjects in the frame, and you can change the focus in post. And when I tried it out, it's so dynamic, so effective, and really cool to see it in action, and it actually works. Alright, moving on to selfies. I did take a few selfies with the 32 megapixel selfie camera on the front, and the results again were pretty impressive. The selfies look sharp and detailed, and they had close to neutral skin tones as well. Plus, the HDR performance was pretty good too. My biggest gripe with the vivo X100 Pro, despite all the great camera chops that it has, it only shoots 1080p 60fps videos using the front camera. There's no 4K option. which is a bit of a pity. The phone is also a fairly fast shooter, but when you don't want to absolutely miss a moment, there's also a snapshot mode for it. In this mode, what Vivo's algorithm does is that it compromises on the post-processing a little bit so that you can end up with a freeze frame shot, and it does work really well too. So I've spoken a lot about the cameras on the Vivo X100 Pro, but trust me, I'm just scratching the surface. There are a lot of pro modes as well, which I will definitely talk about in my detailed review, so stay tuned for that one. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do that right now. As for performance, you get the Dimensity 9300 system on chip, you get UFS 4.0 storage and LPDDR5X RAM as well. The Dimensity 9300 is all big cores, and we tested it for the very first time on the Vivo X100 Pro, and we got an Antutu score of over 2 million points. In fact, the Vivo X100 Pro returned the highest Geekbench score that we've ever recorded here at Trakin. In our 40-thread, 30-minute CPU throttle test that we generally run, the CPU throttles to about 64% CPU stability. It could have been slightly higher in my opinion. However, talking about real-world gaming, which I feel is more important, I did play Genshin Impact for 30 minutes at the highest settings, highest graphics settings, and 60 frames. And you know what? I actually got an average frame rate of 59 FPS, which is fantastic, of course. But the phone did get slightly warmer than usual. That's something you have to keep in mind. As for the network connectivity, you can expect great 5G performance. I was actually using it extensively in Hong Kong with absolutely no problem whatsoever. That apart, you also have support for Wi-Fi 7, you have support for Bluetooth 5.4, there's support for NFC, and there's an infrared blaster too. Now, powering all of these internals is a large 5400 mAh battery inside, and you also get support for 100 watt fast charging speeds and 50 watt wireless charging speeds as well. You'll have to buy the adapter separately. Wired adapter is available within the box. As for my experience with the battery life itself, I haven't tested it out in real life. I have actually been pushing the phone a lot, shooting a lot of photos, shooting a lot of videos, and of course running benchmarks and tests, so it would drain quickly, but definitely stay tuned for my detailed analysis on the battery really soon. The display is also a large 6.78-inch curved AMOLED panel. It's an LTPO panel with a variable refresh rate of 1 Hz to 120 Hz. It can also showcase 1 billion colors as well. And that apart, it's a pixel dense display with a pixel density of 453 ppi. The peak brightness in a local 10% window would be about 3000 nits when you're watching HDR content, and HDR is actually supported in Netflix, which is fantastic. The haptic feedback of the display is tight. The in-display fingerprint scanner is very fast to unlock the phone as well. No complaints whatsoever. Now, what about the stereo speakers, you ask? Well, this is one of the nicest, richest sounding stereo speaker setups. It doesn't get too loud, but it sounds detailed, which is very good. Take a listen for yourself. For the audiophiles in the house, Vivo has always supported high-res music, so high-res audio is supported on this phone, not just wired but also wirelessly. Now, software-wise, you get Android 14 out of the box, which is fantastic, and it's of course running FunTouch OS 14 as well. I've already done a detailed video of FunTouch OS 14, and if you haven't watched that yet, definitely go check that out. And Vivo also promises 3 years of software updates and 4 years of security updates with the Vivo X100 Pro. As for the FunTouch OS experience on the Vivo X100 Pro, it's a fairly clean install. There are a few first-party apps and a few third-party apps as well. Some of the third-party apps I will definitely end up using for myself for sure. But one thing's for certain, this year Vivo has definitely cleaned up the act, and it's a more polished version of FunTouch OS that we're seeing. It's a step in the right direction for sure. Now, you must be wondering, Ershad, we spoke about everything, but what about the design? Well, the design is a clean, classy look, a refined version of the X series phones that Vivo has been making for a long time now. It's of course got a glass sandwich design with a metal frame, and the front is protected by Short Sensation Alpha. But the one thing to notice about the X100 Pro is that the camera module is massive. Of course, the 1-inch sensor has to fit in somewhere, so there's definitely going to be a lot of table wobble. And as for the ports and the button situation, you get a power button, you get a volume rocker. At the top, you've got the infrared blaster, like I mentioned. And at the bottom, you've got a Type-C port with Type-C Gen 3.2 speeds, which is fantastic. And the other good thing about the Vivo X100 Pro's build and design is that you get IP68 rating, which is great. That's all about the Vivo X100 Pro, but I must definitely talk about its younger sibling, the Vivo X100. The display specs, the performance specs, and the software experience are all the same as the Vivo X100 Pro. You also get the same IP68 rating as well. So overall, you actually do get a lot for a lower price with the Vivo X100. Fun fact, in our testing, the Vivo X100 actually scored the highest Antutu score that we've recorded at Trakin till now of over 2.1 million points. In fact, it even beat the Vivo X100 Pro. Now, the first difference that you notice with the Vivo X100 is that it's definitely lighter and slimmer. And if you ask me, this blue color looks quite fetching. I actually like it more than the Vivo X100 Pro. Now, compared to the Vivo X100 Pro's 5400 mAh battery, the Vivo X100 has a smaller 5000 mAh battery. And to compensate for the small size, that's what she said, the Vivo X100 has 120 watt fast charging speeds. I should really stop making juvenile jokes. Really. But there are a couple of things that you need to note for the lower price tag. What you do not get is wireless charging support, and the Type-C port at the bottom is USB Type-C 2.0 standard and not Gen 3.2. And the major difference in the Vivo X100 is the camera setup. While the ultra-wide and the selfie camera are exactly the same, the primary camera is actually the 50MP Sony IMX920 sensor, and it's a 1x1.49 inch sensor, which is of course not as large as the 1 inch sensor. And whereas the telephoto is the OB64B 64 megapixel sensor, but it's a 3x telephoto, or a 3x periscope to be specific. But you know what? The X100 doesn't really drop the ball in terms of camera performance. We managed to shoot some incredible landscape and portrait shots with the X100. Pictures of people were sharp, detailed, and color accurate too. And even the videography chops was pretty dependable. You can shoot 4K 60 FPS video with the 3 cameras, which is really nice. We're still doing our detailed testing of the camera setup inside the Vivo X100. So which phone would you like it to be compared to? Let me know in the comment section below. In the meantime, do also take a look at all the awesome photos that we've captured with the Vivo X100 Pro and the X100. A G Drive link will be waiting for you in the description. You know what? The Vivo X100 Pro is like a well-tuned guitar. If the guitar is not tuned properly, it can sound really grating. But when it's tuned absolutely right, strum it and it'll make beautiful music. That's the camera algorithm on the X100 Pro. It's tuned so well that it immediately gives you impressive results. Even an amateur photographer like myself ended up taking pro-looking photographs. And that is the USP of the X100 Pro. It's a great camera phone. As for the Vivo X100, it's almost equally good as the X100 Pro, and it doesn't cost too much either, so it's a win-win anyway. But these are just my initial very detailed impressions, so my detailed review and comparisons are coming really soon. What would you like us to compare the Vivo X100 Pro and the X100 to? Let me know in the comments below and we'll try to work it out for you. And while you do that, I am going to go ahead and take some more photographs with the Vivo X100 Pro. This phone has rekindled my love for photography. Bye-bye. Oh, before I leave, see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.